Welcome to the Mill Creek Government Channel. I'm Judy Zelina. After 40 years of providing direct victim services and community education and outreach, Crime Victim Center knows firsthand that there is hope and there is help. Joining us on the program today, we have the Executive Director, Paul Lugetsch, from Crime Victim Center, and we also have Jeff Clorley. He's the Director of Marketing and Development from Crime Victim Center. And they're joining us today and going to be telling us about the many services that they provide our community. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining me on the program today.
It's our pleasure. Thank you for having us.
First off, a lot of our viewers may not be familiar with Crime Victim Center. So if you could give me a little bit of history of when it was established to where we are today.
Sure. So it was established as a total voluntary grassroots effort in 1973 by some very empowered people who saw some really bad things happening. The Crime Victim Center was actually established as the Rape Crisis Center of Erie County. Total volunteer agency. Everybody working there was doing it on their own time. The pamphlets that were distributed around the community were done with volunteers' own money and their own ability to do that. And actually, Joan Martin would distribute pamphlets and education out of the back of her station wagon.
Oh my gosh.
So really, we've come a long way in 40 years.
You have.
But the whole idea was that there were lots of sexual assaults and rapes happening in Erie County and actually in Pennsylvania and across the nation that no one was really paying attention to. The laws weren't good. The law enforcement didn't really know how to deal with a lot of these things, and so it took some volunteers to step up and say, look, this is wrong. We need to change the laws. We need to bring awareness to these issues. And we've grown beyond that to now serving people of every type of crime who may need our services. We still maintain our 24-hour crisis hotline. We still specialize in sexual assault counseling and prevention. And we still have all of those original services in place, but we've just grown beyond that, and now we can serve people affected by any type of crime in Erie County.
Okay, so basically your mission, your goal.
Our goal is to empower people who've been affected by crime through counseling, advocacy, and through prevention methods. But it's also to empower the community to be aware of what crime is and to prevent further crimes from happening. Okay.
You guys provide so many services, and when I look at the website, which Jeff, you know, up and down and left and right. But when I look at the website, it just amazes me of all the services that you do provide. Can you go over a little bit about some of the services? Let our viewers know what you have to offer.
Sure. Obviously, our biggest known probably services are the 24-hour crisis hotline. People can call us for any reason. We are the advocates that will go to the hospital, that will go to the police station to represent a person who's been affected by crime in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, the counseling is very central to what we do, helping people through that crime. And it could be something that happened yesterday or 20 years ago. We're still available to talk to and to help people through those horrible experiences. Beyond that, we also do the restitution and victim compensation for the county, which kind of in a nutshell is helping people who've been affected by a crime and they've had monetary loss. And so we file paperwork to help bring some of those monies back to the victims so that they don't have out-of-pocket expenses. We also do all the court advocacy. So if somebody is going to trial, they've been a victim of a crime and they're going to trial, we are there as an advocate to support that victim, to help them understand what's going on in the courtroom, and to support them through all of that, regardless of how long that harrowing experience may take.
I think that would be absolutely terrifying to have to go to court and to face the person that committed the crime against you. That would be absolutely terrifying. We talked about this too, is you also work with children that have to go to court, correct?
We absolutely do.
Or younger people, let's put it that way.
We see all types of people affected by crime. Unfortunately, we see a lot of people under the age of 18 who've been sexually assaulted. And that is a horrifying thing for a child to have endured. But now to go to trial or to have, seek other restorative services is an amazingly powerful thing for the child to do,
Right.
but very much part of the services that we offer. And unfortunately, a lot of our clientele are under the age of 18.
Jeff, what in your department, what do you usually work on?
I'm actually the director of marketing and development, so
Okay.
a lot of what I'm actually trying to do is just get the word out to make sure that everybody in Erie County knows who we are, what we're able to do for them, and how they can actually reach us. But on top of that, I actually do reach out to people as far as fundraising, donations, building our donor base so that we can continue doing the work that we've been doing for 40 years.
Now, do you have satellite offices?
We have 5 of them.
I saw that, and I did not know that.
We have 5 satellite offices.
I didn't know
through
you
the
had
county.
5.
Absolutely, because we want to be where people need us. And to even further be available, we have adopted laptop computers for all of our counselors and a internet called a VPN system network that allows us to serve clients wherever they need us to be. So if people are afraid to come into our office or they can't get to our office, we try to be as available to them in their community as we possibly can be to provide the needed services that they're requesting.
Oh my gosh, that is phenomenal. That really is. You have support groups. What consists of these support groups?
So yeah, we have a couple of ongoing support groups, and then we create support groups as needed. And it can be anything from families who've been victims of homicide to adults who are suffering from past childhood experiences that they want to talk about as a group. It could be a group of people who just want to get together and continue their counseling in a group setting. They've moved beyond the individual counseling setting. And so we're happy to set up whatever groups that are needed in the community and definitely that people are asking for.
Okay. I want to go back. You were talking about victim compensation. I just want to touch a little bit about that before I forget. What would you have to, what are the terms of eligibility?
Yeah, so there's 2 basic programs. One's called victim compensation, the other one's called restitution.
Okay.
Restitution is things like a home invasion, a car break-in, where you're not necessarily present, but somebody has violated your property and they've stolen things. So what you want to make sure you do is contact the police and file the proper police report, and then you want to come to us and, file that report with us as well, letting us know what things cost, what was taken. If you have any receipts for any of those things, that's always helpful. And what will happen is if that perpetrator's caught, and oftentimes they are, we can then add that to their sentencing. The judge will add that to their sentencing, that they have to replace this monetary value of items stolen. So that money comes from perpetrators. Victim compensation is a little bit more involved. It often involves seniors who maybe have had Social Security checks stolen or some kind of pension plan stolen, and often people who have been hurt or their medical devices have been broken or stolen. Those kind of things qualify for victim compensation. So say you were knocked down and your arm was broken and your glasses were stomped on in a mugging. Those are kind of things that victim compensation would help cover. And again, we're the conduit to file the paperwork to make sure that that gets documented at the state level, and then those monies will come back to the victim so that they don't have out-of-pocket expenses. We are always the payer of last resort, so if there is an insurance that will cover those costs, we won't, but we will cover those as the payer of last resort, and we are definitely a tool that people need to know and be aware of.
Okay.
The other interesting thing about victim compensation is that also is not tax dollars or state monies. That is money paid for through perpetrators and through businesses who do bad things and get fined. That money goes into a national pot.
Oh, okay.
And those monies come back to individual states and counties like ours.
I like that.
So it's very, very cool. And we obviously want people to know that that money is available, that it's not federal tax dollars, that it's not state tax dollars. And we actually are one of the #1 groups in Pennsylvania to bring monies back through the compensation back into Pennsylvania and into Erie County.
Well, you guys do a great job because we were talking earlier, I know one of our Mill Creek residents, he came to me and he had been robbed. And again, someone was talking to him at the front door while someone went in the back door, stole his Social Security check. That was it. This is all this man had to live on. And I believe it was the police department who referred him to you guys to help fill out the paperwork, and he was able to get some monetary, some money back to help get him through the month.
Right.
He had no other money, and I don't know. Those papers and forms are so complicated.
It is, and so to have a dedicated, really well-seasoned
yes.
staff to be able to do that for you is huge, and we absolutely want to be available, and we want people to know those services are available. I'm so thrilled that the police were able to forward that person on to us.
Right.
I'm hoping that happens. I'm hoping that the community will understand what we do and remind people that we're available to fill out those papers and to make that happen.
So I want to ask you too, for instance, if an individual was broken into and they have insurance, homeowners insurance that would cover it, you would still be able to come in. I could still call you and say, you know what, I've got this form here and I'm just afraid I'm going to fill it out wrong.
Absolutely.
You would be able to help me with that.
Absolutely. We help with all of that. And we encourage people to that. Again, please get the police report. Please call the police, get the police report, and then we can pick up from there and make sure we have proper documentation or help you with your insurance or help you with other services that may be available. It never hurts to ask. So we absolutely encourage people to use our services.
Another service that you provide that I think is so important is if it's something that you are not able to fulfill for somebody, you're able to refer them or give them the information on how to help them.
Absolutely. Erie is very blessed to have a strong network of social services.
We are.
We try to be aware of all of the things in Erie County, especially those things that we don't do. And we absolutely believe it's our duty to refer people to the other services that they may need if we don't provide them. And we're hoping, and we think that we also have strong commitments from the other social service groups, especially that do the same thing, that make themselves aware of what Erie County has and try to put the people in the right places to get all the services they're entitled to.
Okay, now we're talking about, you and I were just talking about like break-ins or something like that, but you also work with individuals, and we've touched a bit on this, who are victims of sexual assault. What services do you provide in these situations?
So we were started as a rape crisis center, and we still provide all of those rape crisis and sexual assault.
I remember it as Rape Crisis Center.
Yeah, and so we still do all of those things, and that includes the 24-hour crisis hotline, calling us. That includes accompaniment to the hospital. That includes being with a person if they request us while they're doing a rape exam. That includes advocating for a person in the courtroom. That includes going to the police station and helping a person file a report. Whatever we can do for the victim, supporting the victim, protecting the victim, that's our goal, and that's our job. So it's always victim driven. It's always that's the person who's in charge, what they want us to do. Right. But we are absolutely available on a moment's notice. We have a 24-hour hotline. We have the internet service. We have the local crisis service. We are as available as we possibly can be to people who've been sexually assaulted or raped.
Okay, now, how do you work with the criminal justice system?
We are very fortunate to have an incredibly good relationship with the DA's office. In fact, we have staff members that are positioned in the courthouse, and they do their work from there. So that helps us to be involved in every type of criminal activity. That helps us to know what's going to trial, and if the people who are victims in that trial need representation from us and want representation from us. That helps us to make sure we have accurate restitution papers on file and victim compensation papers. That all makes that process work. We're also really trying to gear up and work with all the local and state police departments as well to make sure they understand our services and how can we help them in an investigation, how can we support them in the work that they do, and how are they able to refer victims to us to make sure that everybody gets what they're entitled to and is aware of our services. You can't say enough about the good people who protect our citizens every day. We absolutely want to support the work that they do. And again, the DA and his whole staff have been absolutely phenomenal to work with. And we're right there. We're right there hand in hand, trying to keep people safe and to provide services to people who've been victimized.
I think that's wonderful. Another thing I noticed, and I wanted to touch a bit on, is education. You have prevention education. Now I'm going to tell you something. When I saw prevention education to help prevent crime, I'm thinking, Paul, what is involved in these programs, these community outreach programs and education that you provide that will help stop crime?
Yep, so a big part of it is helping the community understand what is crime and what crime is going on in our community. So we have to be one step ahead of that, and we have to be very aware of what's going on, what kind of criminal activity is happening, and enlighten the community to that. That's step one. Beyond that, then, we can help people avoid those situations. And if you can identify crime, if you can identify a bad situation, then you can maybe get yourself out of that situation or avoid it altogether. The other really important thing we want to help the community do is be good bystanders, which means if you see something that you don't think is quite right, if you see something that it looks like criminal activity, how do you call the authorities and keep yourself safe? What does that look like? How can you be a good citizen and report a crime without putting yourself in jeopardy or in danger? So that's a big part of our education and prevention programs, to identify crime, know what it looks like, how to avoid it, and most importantly, how to report it safely to the proper authorities.
Okay. Now, you work with all age groups also, don't you?
We do.
With your education.
Absolutely. From kindergarten through 99.
Okay, tell me what you would present to elementary.
So obviously everything's going to be at the level of the understanding of the people we're working with.
Right.
In an elementary situation, we might talk about how to know a good touch from a bad touch, for instance, and what does that look like, and where people can and can't put their hands on your body, and you know that your body is your own, and you don't have to allow people to touch you in places you don't want them to. So that might be a very elementary basic starting block. And then as you go into first, third, fifth, seventh grade, we're teaching messages that are age appropriate to all of those students, as well as going into the colleges. We currently are working with Gannon University and some of the other colleges to create safe campuses. And what does that look like? And again, it goes back to what are healthy relationships? How do you keep yourself safe on a campus? What does crime look like on a college campus, and how do you avoid it? All those same kind of issues. So it's everything from, how to treat other people and how you want other people to treat you, right up to how do you be a good citizen and create a healthy community.
I think that's interesting because we were talking a bit too. You even talk with the kids about bullying.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
Because that can be a big start of aggressive bad behavior,
mm-hmm.
correct?
Absolutely. And we actually have bullying programs from kindergarten all the way up to senior centers.
Do you really?
And of course, we don't always call it bullying, but we see some of the same situations. And we have groups come in and say, hey, we have Thelma who's, being a terror. Can you come in and talk to our group? And we're happy to do that. And again, I can't stress enough that we will tailor the conversation to the appropriateness of the group.
Okay.
So if they're 5, if they're 75, we're happy to talk about any issue. We'll make it age appropriate, and we'll be very supportive of the people listening to the message and sharing with them what they can do about those bullying situations or other types of tricky situations.
And I found it interesting too, and we were talking earlier, high school age, talking with kids on appropriate behavior on dating.
Yeah, dating.
That's something that we just take for granted, but really some children don't have those resources.
Exactly, and actually that's one of our better requested programs in the high schools is relationships, and what does that mean? How do you have a healthy relationship? What should that look like? How do you support that with other friends? Who are our healthy role models? We live in a society now where we don't have the good, healthy role models that we'd like to have. And so we have to kind of create that surrounding and remind people of what is okay and what's not okay, and why do you always ask? And you never take a person's feelings for granted, and you never take your actions for granted that they're just going to be accepted. We've come a long way in assuming that behaviors are okay when they're not, and we need to get back to the basics and actually, help people to understand what's a healthy relationship.
Yes, we do. What other organizations do you work with, Paul?
We work with lots of different organizations, especially all of our partners through the United Way, and that's one of our funding sources, which we're so honored to have. But two of our really important connections are the Children's Advocacy Center. They are amazing at helping young people, especially, go through the whole forensic process and interviewing and getting ready for a trial. But we do all the counseling for all of the children that come through their program. So the connection between our two agencies is huge, and both of us really rely on each other to help a child through that horrible experience and create a positive outcome. Another really strong group that we work with is the SafeNet. SafeNet is all about domestic violence, where we're about sexual assault, and there's a big difference in those two types of crimes. But we really have to support each other in making sure that we get the people to the right agency and to the appropriate services that they want and need. So those agencies are huge to help us do our work. Very different and unique in the scope of work they do, but we all are very supportive of how we can network and make sure people get all the things that they want and need.
Now, Paul, are you just in Erie County?
We are all of Erie County, correct.
Okay, and you said you have 5 different satellite offices?
Right. So we have satellite offices in Corey, Edinburgh, Girard, Northeast, and Union City.
Okay. Wow. You guys, I'm sorry to say, I'm glad you're there, but geez, it's a shame that you have to be so
Absolutely
many places.
have to be. And I like to say that, by and large, people who have filled out surveys, who have used our services, say, we are so glad you were here. And we don't know how we would have done it without you. And I'm going to tell my family and friends, and we want people to know. We want to become a household name. We want people to know that there is a resource. And again, it could be something that happened yesterday. It could be something that happened 40 years ago, and you're just now ready to talk about it. We are available. We don't want people to have to live with these horrible things looming over them. And we want people to know that in spite of some terrible things happening, there is light at the end of the tunnel, and there is hope, and we want to help people move beyond that terrible thing and get back to life and get back to enjoying all the good things that life has to offer.
Well, too, I like the fact that when I asked you about the support groups, you say you have ongoing support groups, but you'll get one going just to fit my need.
Absolutely. If we have a cohort of people who say this is what we need, we will make that happen. We will absolutely make that happen. We want to be part of the community. We want to give the community what they need. Just like when an individual comes in,
Right.
we give them the services they want. We help them understand everything we do, but they are in charge. They get to pick and choose. They get to decide how they want services to be delivered to them. And we want to do the same thing with the community. What does the community need? What's the community asking for? We will respond.
Now, you guys, of course, you're a nonprofit. How are you funded?
Well, Jeff, you want to field that one?
We have
He's our marketing guy.
He's our marketing guy.
Come on, Jeff.
Sure, we can give a good explanation of this. We actually have a really diverse set of funding sources.
Okay.
So if for some reason there's something going on with the federal government where something's not going the way we think it is, we actually have such a diverse funding spread, I suppose, that it doesn't really impact us as much as it would impact a smaller organization. So
All right.
we have funding from the United Way. We're actually a member agency of theirs. We actually have funding from Pennsylvania Coalition Against Rape is one of our
Bigger
kind of a
funders.
parent organization of ours. I suppose they do a lot of work in Pennsylvania and nationwide, and we get a pretty good amount of funds from them. We do quite a bit of work as far as fundraising goes. We have quite a few different special events and private donors that we actually work with as well. I'm trying to think of a few others.
Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. The Erie Community Foundation has been wonderful to us in helping us stay afloat. They actually help provide funds for air conditioning and a roof this year, which are huge to have a safe, comfortable environment to serve people. So that's amazing. Okay. And a variety of smaller private donors will give us money. And having said that, Jeff had said that we're so very diversified in funding, and we are. we could always use another dollar. We could always,
That's right.
There's
Private
always that.
donations. You're not going to say no.
There's always that extra thing we could be doing. There's always that extra person we could bring on to do more prevention programming. There's always that extra, program way out in Northeast that we'd want to, make happen if we had that extra buck. So we try to be incredibly responsible with the resources we have, but there's always more to do. There's always going to be, more to do. So can't forget that.
Jeff, you mentioned fundraisers. Do you have some annual fundraisers?
We do. The biggest fundraiser that we actually have every year is kind of a relatively new event. This is going to be the third year that we've actually done it. It's called Moonlight on the Bay. It's actually going to be held on September, is it the 4th?
The 5th, I believe.
4th or 5th. I think it's the 4th or 5th this year.
Okay.
It's actually on a Friday night every year at Perry Monument. So we actually do the event outside at night at Perry Monument. It's a black tie gala. Last year we had about 450 people come to attend the event. We were able to raise a really good amount of money for our organization. We actually partner with another agency, it's a statewide agency called Vision of Hope.
Okay.
And the goal of Vision of Hope is actually to end child sexual abuse. So we actually partner with Vision of Hope to try and use this event as a way that we can raise money for child sexual abuse victims. So it was huge last year. Like I said, black tie. The best as far as the foods and beverages from the Erie region. So we're really excited about that again this year. And we're hoping to have a couple surprises for people this year as well that we can do to change it up a little bit. So. As far as fundraisers, we do always have quite a few events throughout the year. One of the really big events that we are having this year that's not a fundraiser is a speaker series that we actually brought to Erie last year with Elizabeth Smart in April.
Good.
As I mentioned last year, for our 40th anniversary, we brought Elizabeth Smart to Erie. Had almost 1,000 people at the Bayfront Convention Center to come see her speak, and it was really moving as far as her and impactful for what she was able to talk about. This year, on April 9th, we're actually going to have Debbie and Rob Smith come to speak in Erie. Debbie Smith is actually a victim turned advocate, and her husband is actually a former police officer. And basically, her story is she was actually a victim of rape in, I think, 1989. She was basically taken from her home while her husband was actually in the home.
Wow.
The event kind of occurred over a course of a few hours where her husband was actually sleeping. She was actually, I'm sorry. I apologize, I lost my track.
It's going to be interesting. I will tell you.
She's gonna tell her story. It's gonna be a huge event to just
wonderful.
again bring awareness to our services, to bring awareness to sexual assault centers all across the country. She's a huge advocate. The Debbie Smith Act is a federal act that provides funding for people who've been affected by rape. So a big deal to bring her to town,
Okay.
and again a big deal for our awareness issues and to help people understand what we do and how important that is. I just want a quick caveat on the Moonlight on the Bay event. It is our signature fundraiser. What's really interesting about it is we do partner with the Vision of Hope, and the honorary chair for that is Michelle Ridge, and she comes every year. She loves the event. She loves our agency. She loves the work we do, and we're so blessed and pleased to have an advocate like Michelle Ridge in our corner. So that's huge. And that event is because we needed new funds. So it's a constantly ongoing thing that we had to create something to not only bring awareness, but to bring funding to the good things we want to do.
Viewers, that's just a couple ways that we can help support them. Again, if anyone has any questions or wants to find out any information, how can they contact you?
Our website, www.cvcerie.org. They can certainly call us, 814-455-9414. Stop into any of our satellite offices or our main office on 18th Street. Happy to chat with anybody who comes through the doors. Or just look for us in the media and stop at one of our many outreach and awareness booths that we'll be having throughout the fall, the spring, and the summer.
Okay, Paul, Jeff, thank you so much for joining us on the program today. It is a pleasure. So viewers, if you have any questions, give them a call. Thank you for tuning into the Milker Government Channel. Until next time, have a wonderful day.
You're watching the Mill Creek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.